Collet check. The inspector takes the collet checking tool and hand screws a new consumable pin into it after the inspector tightens the pin with an appropriate sized Allen key. The inspector places the collet checking tool onto the lowering tray. The operator uses the crane to lower the lowering tray next to the tie rod that needs to be checked. The operator takes the hook tool and untightens the false tie rod. This is roughly 5 turns in an anti-clockwise direction. Still using the hook tool, the operator places the false tie rod in one of the empty tubes on the lowering tray and turns it a couple of times clockwise to ensure that the false tie rod is securely fastened in the tube. The operator now unscrews the tie rod from the lowering tray, using the hook tool, and places it over the threaded hole. Tightens it clockwise with roughly 5 turns until it can turn no more. No torque is to be applied. To ensure the tie rod has been correctly threaded into the hole and is secure, the operator takes the hook tool and vertically tries to lift the tie rod. There should be no movement if it is placed correctly. The hook tool can now be hung from the bridge. The operator takes the seal tool and inserts the collet checking tool into the seal tool. The operator hangs the seal tool on the bridge. The operator takes the donut tool and places it over the donut on the lowering tray. The operator turns the donut tool clockwise until it drops into the vertical groove on the donut. The operator continues to turn the donut clockwise until it stops. This will ensure the donut tool is secured onto the donut. Still using the donut tool, now the donut fixed inside it, the operator lifts the donut off the lowering tray and places the donut tool over the tie rod. The operator turns the donut tool clockwise until the grooves are lined up and the donut falls a few millimeters into the secure position. To separate the donut tool from the donut, the operator turns it anti-clockwise until it stops. The operator lifts the donut tool, which should now be separated from the donut, and hangs the tool on the bridge. The operator takes the hook tool and puts it over the protective cap of the tie rod, and with roughly 8 anti-clockwise turns, untightens the protective cap from the tie rod. Next, the operator brings the protective cap on the lowering tray where the seal was mounted and secures the protective cap with 2 clockwise turns. The hook tool can now be hung from the bridge. The inspector takes the seal tool by both handles and turns it anti-clockwise and breaks the pin inside the collet checking tool. If no torque is felt, it is likely that the tie rod is defective. The tie rod should be placed onto the lowering tray and taken out of the pond, at which stage the inspector should check the collet, weldings, and etc. for any defects. Photos should be taken and the JRC engaged. The inspector removes the checking tool from the tie rod. The operator hangs the seal tool on the bridge. Next, the operator takes the hook tool and unscrews the protective cap from the lowering tray with a couple of turns anti-clockwise until it's loose. The operator places the protective cap on the tie rod with the hook tool and turns it clockwise until secured onto the tie rod. The hook tool can now be hung from the bridge. The operator takes the donut tool and places it over the tie rod. The operator turns the donut tool anti-clockwise until it drops into the vertical groove on the donut and stops turning. This will secure the donut tool onto the donut and can now be lifted off. To place the donut onto the lowering tray, the operator holds the donut tool over the donut holder on the lowering tray and aligns with the notch on the lowering tray. To separate the donut tool from the donut, the operator turns it anti-clockwise until it stops. The operator lifts the donut tool, which should now be separated from the donut, and hangs the tool on the bridge. And screws the checking tool onto the lowering tray. The operator untightens the tie rod using the tie rod tool by turning it 8 times anti-clockwise. The operator lifts the tie rod using the hook tool and places the tie rod onto the lowering tray and tightens with a couple of clockwise turns. Still using the hook tool, the operator takes the false tie rod from the lowering tray and places it in the empty threaded hole. The operator turns the hook tool clockwise to tighten the false tie rod and hangs the hook tool on the bridge. The inspector raises the lowering tray to the surface and hands over to the inspector